Welcome to the Networking with Michelle podcast, the show dedicated on providing you the how-tos of marketing and networking strategies. Here we believe in the Jim Rohn quote, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Hey everyone, thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Networking with Michelle. Today we'll be discussing creating a content marketing strategy. Before we begin, just want to go over a few announcements. The first one is the weekend of July 29th through the 31st here in Houston, I was able to attend the Presentation Power Bootcamp led by Jonathan Sprinkles. He is a leadership and motivational speaker. He's been doing it for the past 15 years. And that boot camp was absolutely amazing. I was fortunate to go in 2014, not knowing what to expect. And I really didn't have any expectations for this year. I just knew that, well, two things. In 2014, I had literally just started my business. It was probably 3-4 months into business. I had a lot of ideas, but really didn't know what I wanted to do because, it was still new when it comes to speaking, book writing, and all that type of stuff, info marketing. But my mentor hooked it up, so I went. Fast forward 2.5 years later, I've accomplished a lot. I actually released my first book just 9 months after attending the seminar. And of course, I've been speaking professionally, some paid, some free gigs. So I was like, this time I really didn't have a game plan. I didn't have major expectations because my whole thing was I need to just refresh on the material and see how I can take things and apply it now that I'm in it versus starting out. And Jonathan was amazing. This man has grown tremendously. And I'll say this, the one thing I've been struggling with this year is the simple fact of acknowledging and sharing my story. Once again, it's one of those things where everyone's telling you what you need to do, but no one's really telling you how to do it. And he provided multiple frameworks on how to tell your story. And by the end of the second day, I had my story written. So just absolutely phenomenal. And anyone that, it's not about becoming a professional speaker. A lot of us, we just present, right? Whether you're in the financial services industry, whether you're a startup, a corporate trainer, we're presenting at some level. Even as a podcaster, I'm presenting, right? And sidebar, I don't really know if I'm going to do voiceovers, but I want to take a voiceover class just so I can become better, right? And sometimes we have to take these classes, even if it's not during our career path, but it falls in line. And if we take it, we know we can become better. So I highly recommend Jonathan Sprinkles. You can check him out. His website is jsprinkles.com and getpresentationpower.com. Absolutely amazing. I encourage everyone to attend at least once. And he offers it twice a year. January is the last weekend in January and the last weekend in July. And he already has the dates for January. So I'll go ahead and have that linked in the show notes. Let's see here. Oh, the second thing. Last week, I released a bonus episode called Perspectives of Black Lives Matter. And this is a 5-part series that I've been working on for quite some time. And I interviewed 4 different experts in their field, people that I have relationships with online. And earlier in July, there was the police shootings of Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, here in Houston, Alva, Brazil. And I was like, this is just too much. And I was like, I got to do something. I have a platform. I got to do something. So over the next 5 weeks, I plan on releasing a new episode every Wednesday if everything works out. And we're just going to talk about things. And we talk about, of course, the police shootings, social media activism. Are we heading towards a new Black Wall Street, minimum wage, voter registration? We talk about a lot of things. And this past week, I released an episode with Brandon Jones, who is a psychotherapist based out of St. Paul, Minnesota. And this young man is talented. I really believe he has next. Just wisdom, knowledge, nuggets all through the episode. And he's good at what he does because I was a little bit emotional. So if you're always looking to get to know me a little bit better, that's definitely one episode to check out. And Brandon Jones, please go to michellegomez.com for the show notes. He is a psychotherapist. And what I love about him, because I've been in and out of therapy for a number of years. just because I believe you need to talk to someone about just life. But what I like about Brandon is that, especially now, what we need right now is that he focuses on healing the Black community and addressing some of our behavioral patterns and mental health conditions. And we talk about how mental health or seeing a therapist is taboo. And we talk about that, seeing a therapist in general, seeing a therapist regarding these shootings. How do we prepare ourselves before and after these incidents that a lot of us Black folks are experiencing today? So it's a great episode. It's over an hour, so we were really just talking and getting in. So please take a moment to listen to that. And I hope you look forward to the next 4 episodes that should come out. And once again, that's Perspective of Black Lives Matter. And, I really enjoyed it. So it's kind of like once I kind of finalized everything, other people were like reaching out to me on Twitter. It's been interesting. I was hoping to do an interview with like a Latino activist, but I couldn't find anyone. And I was like, I don't know if I'm onto something with a separate podcast show, but let me know what you think. And I'd like to work that out if possible. But it's a pleasant surprise. I hope you really like it. Perspectives of Black Lives Matter. That should be coming out every Wednesday for the next 4 more weeks. All right. So today we're talking about content marketing strategy. Last week, we talked about marketing strategy from a high level, the big picture. We talked about the 5 Ps that we need, which are product or service, place, price, promotion, and people, and the importance of understanding your customer, creating customer value, and building the relationship, and everything that goes into a strategy. So today, I just want to talk about the specific aspects of content marketing, content creation, whatever you want to call it, why you need content. And I've been fortunate to speak a lot this year, specifically on social media. And the number one problem that I've seen amongst the audiences that I talk to, when it comes to social media, people, they don't know what to say. And the demand is there, but then it's blank. I don't know how, but it's like we get all excited. We jump on Facebook first. We jump on Snapchat first. All these different platforms. We got the account created, but then we get off because we don't know what to say. And even myself, I'm guilty of it. And I try to play to my strength as the best that I can. But I wanted to take a moment to run through the types of content and how to position yourself. Now, this is tricky. When it comes to content marketing and social media marketing, there's a lot of overlap. So one thing I want to explain, but I really want to get into detail next week, is the social media site. Okay, so what is content? Content is your communication. It's your communication to your audience, your end user, right? Think of your conversation. You're on the phone, text message. That's all content is. I think now over the past 5 to 10 years, when people say content, we're thinking of digital communication because it's going on these social media platforms, it's going on our website, it's online in some shape or form. So what is content marketing? Content marketing is the content, obviously the content you create that you're promoting more than likely through the channels of social media, which is social media marketing. What I like, Gary Vee says this a lot. He says, think of social media as your TV channels, your ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox News, CNN, whatever you want to call it, Spike TV, right? Each channel creates its own content. When you go to ABC, you know what to expect. It's a local show. You're going to get a variety of things throughout different times of day, right? If you go to CNN, you know you're going to get news pretty much for 24 hours. And you might have some special news, special reports, right? Go to Spike TV, who knows what you're going to get. But the thing is, each channel has its own audience. It creates its specific content for that audience. Is there some overlap? Absolutely, right? We flip channels back and forth during commercial break. And just like we like one platform more than the other, we spend some time scroll through Facebook, go to Instagram, probably see those same pictures. And then we go to Twitter and Snapchat. So think of social media as your distribution channel for your content. So what I want to do today is to run through the various forms and the types of content that you can create, how to repurpose your content, and the questions you need to ask yourself in order for you to create your strategy. So forms of content. Of course, we have the written, blog posts, articles, very common. Everyone starts with that. Visuals. Right now, Instagram quotes, infographics, very popular for Pinterest. If you're creative, hey, think about cartoons, illustrations, especially if you're a graphic designer. If you can do some GIFs, things of that nature. Audio. You're listening to a podcast right now, maybe different types of interviews. And I'm actually working on a blog post right now called How to Add Audio to Your Content Strategy, where I talk about using YouTube, right? YouTube, we do think of videos, but maybe if you're not fully comfortable with doing a video, you have the PowerPoint going through, right? I have a lot of presentations like that, the recording with the PowerPoint slides, and maybe pictures of you or pictures of the event, whatever is going on. There's apps. There's the Clamor app and then Anchor. Anchor is only for, well, I think both of them are only for Apple iOS at this time. But yeah, Clamor is only, I think, 15 to 27 seconds. Came out 2015, had a good run with podcasters. Anchor has been out for some time. The good thing is you can record for a minute and it can be conversational. So if you feel like, you have inspiration or some type of tips you want to drop every day, once again, and you're not ready to do video, you can utilize those audio apps. And then you have longer forms of audio that you can use, such as maybe you don't want to do a podcast per se, but you can do SoundCloud.com, you can do AudioMac.com. But even with the podcast, there's really no time limit. Most of us are used to listening to something maybe 15, 20 minutes, all the way up to maybe an hour, hour and a half. But I've seen not many, but I have seen a few podcasts that maybe have been 2, 3, 5 minutes. But if you don't want to do full-fledged podcasts on iTunes, there's other options such as SoundCloud and AudioMac. So other types of content, I'm going to go through this list and I'll have all of this in the show notes. Let's see, you have videos. I said video, live stream video as well. Data, statistics, press release, bio. You can do list, how-to list, maybe timeline, sequence of events, of course, webinars, white papers, information guides, one-pagers, which can be as a free download on your website, interviews, whether it's a podcast interview or a TV news interview. All of these are forms or types of content that you can create. But more importantly, I want to talk about how to repurpose the content. And I am subscribed to Neil Patel's newsletter. And Neil Patel is great. He's probably one of the best experts when it comes to content marketing. And one thing he says is don't put all your eggs in a blog basket. So a little sense of humor there. But it makes sense because what happens is usually when someone knows they need a blog, they definitely think of a written blog. I get it. It's the first thing that happened, the first thing to appear. But you really want to play to your strengths when it comes to creating content. So if you know you have trouble sitting down to write, whether it's 5 minutes or 30 minutes, maybe a blog post is not for you. And if you know that you're better at video, you probably want to go that route. But this is the thing. There's a way that you can repurpose taking that video, that audio, and turning it into multiple forms on content that can be distributed on various channels. So for example, one of my favorite examples is using this podcast, for example. So this is an audio recording. Some of the things that I do is I'm going to have the show notes on the website, on the michellegourmet.com website. From that, I'm going to take a few nuggets. I'm like, okay, well, can I create an Instagram quote for that? So my graphic designer, he's created a template for me so I can just go in there, create some type of quote, phrase, keywords, create my thing, promote that on Instagram and Pinterest for my visual branding aspect. And so we have 3 items. So we have the actual podcast, we have the show notes / blog post, we have the Instagram quote. So those are 3 things right there that I can use or that allows me to repurpose my content. Okay, some things that I do behind the scenes. For example, all of my interviews that I did from 2014 up until last year, that I was either a guest on someone's show or I interviewed them on my show. I took all of those interviews and I got them transcribed. So that's a form of content. And my goal from that is to write multiple books from those interviews. So I'm currently working on a book right now. And what I do, I just kind of weave through it. If something pops up, hey, I interviewed this person, this may be a good fit. I go back to that interview, kind of skim through it and see if I can plug something or not. I don't obligate myself to that, but it's definitely nice to have. And if you are a podcaster or if you're doing a lot of video, you may want to get those transcribed if you plan on creating a lot of written content, blog post, book, maybe even an audiobook. I have some thoughts about that, but I think it'll be really complicated. So I can transcribe my notes. There's a website called revrev.com, or what I've done, because my podcast interviews are long, average time is about 45 minutes. And I believe rev.com charges $1 a minute. I just hired a virtual assistant, and that was their project. And I sent them about 5 to 10 interviews at a time, and they transcribed it for me. So now I have my content. Now, depending on your industry, a couple of weeks ago, I spoke at a building and construction conference. And one of the things that I told them is like, hey, you do the interview, you got the blog post and all this kind of stuff. So for example, say you got a good interview question. You answered it maybe on the very surface, but you want to go into detail. So what you can do is create an information guide. And maybe that's your free download for your website. So it's a free download. Customer comes in, they download it, and they hire you for your service. Once they hire you, do a good job, and then you can get a testimonial. So you can take that testimonial and you can put it on other marketing collateral, such as your website, testimonials on the back of a brochure, information guide, business card, at the end of a webinar. All of those things allow you to create or repurpose content. Another thing that goes underestimated was surveys. I like surveys for whatever reason. Asking survey questions based on your audience's answer. You can turn around and write a blog post answering those questions or providing details to those survey questions. And then frequently asked questions. I think FAQs can be your best friend, especially if you're in a technical industry. If you can take those, and if you're brand new, it may take a while to kind of sieve through or to receive those FAQs. But once you get them, and be like, hey, why does plan A cost more than plan B, right? So what you can do is, of course, you answer the FAQ if you create that page, but you can create a blog post. Why does this material cost more than material B? It's because of these and these reasons. Or these are the things that you need to look out for when you want to buy a swimming pool or when you want to get a new roof. So those are just some of the examples I used a few weeks ago at the conference I was speaking at. So you start off with your podcast interview, turn that into a blog post. You can either do a summary, get it transcribed, you create an Instagram quote, which is 3 items. If you're feeling like you really want to work, you can do the information guide, you get a new client, create a testimonial, ask survey questions, frequently asked questions. And by the time you do that, you can have at least 3 pieces of content, all the way to about 7, 8 pieces of content. One thing I've also seen with podcasters is that they will either do a video of their interview and have it uploaded to YouTube, and then they'll chunk that down to a 1-minute clip for Instagram or, a few seconds for Snapchat, Twitter, and other platforms. Or they do a Facebook Live of their interview, of their podcast. I know Gary Vee does the Facebook Live for his Ask Gary Vee show. I think that's great for him because he has an audience. However, I don't watch it because Facebook Live it interrupts. For me, it interrupts the flow of the day, right? So the way I operate, I know I just want to go back to his YouTube channel and watch it when I have time versus the interruption of Facebook Live. One thing I do encourage, if you really want to get into Facebook Live, is maybe having it like a regular channel. Like every Monday from 10 to 10:15, I'll be here, I'll talk about this. Or every day from 10 to 10 to 15, I'm here, I'll talk about this and answer your questions. I think that's a plus. I think that's one thing that can help build a trusted following, such as Gary Vee has, before you're just like, hey, I'm here and I'm going all in, take it or leave it. So when creating content, make sure your content educates, informs, inspires. You're able to build trust. You become a resource and you remain valuable to your end user. You become a resource and remain valuable to your end user. So this is what the communication is about, right? So it's not like the conversation. I guess it depends on the form where you can get that immediate dialogue. But depending on the platform, they're going to either leave comments on your website, on Facebook, engagement through live video, Periscope. It's still a dialogue. It just may be a little bit delayed. And the way that you're going to continue to build trust and add value in any relationship is when you serve your audience with the right type of content. A couple of weeks ago, I did a 1-question survey. A lot of people didn't even realize it was a survey through my newsletter, but it was like, what are the 1 or 2 things you want me to talk on? People were like, marketing strategy, book marketing, selling products, personal brand. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to incorporate all of those things. It's going to take time, but you really have to be in tune with what your audience needs and wants from you. So if you're going to create content, you need to ask yourself these 3 things. What is your ideal client's persona? What are their needs? And how can you deliver through content? The buyer persona, what are their needs and their wants? And how can you deliver through content? What you want to figure out, what is the best way that they learn, that they can learn about you, your business, and the industry that you're involved in. Second question is, what is my goal? Do I want to drive more traffic? Do I need more conversions that lead to sales or increase email subscribers? Do I need to increase my overall visibility through video? And then, of course, you have some metrics. So what are my goals and how will I measure those goals? I feel like a real teacher. I feel like I'm actually doing a presentation. I think that's why I take those pauses. The third question, how do I want to promote my content? That's when the social media comes into play, but we're going to go into that next week. But just think about what I said earlier. Think of your social media as your distribution channel. So you may have your video on Facebook, but maybe you'll take that summary from the video and have it on LinkedIn Publishing. And then the last question, how often do I want to create, publish, and promote this content? That's the tricky part because blogging is not easy. Podcasting is not easy. There's a real discipline that comes to that. And you really want to find the best way that you'll be able to remain consistent, whether you're working by yourself or with a team. Which leads me to my next point, the steps to a content strategy. Now, you got to keep in mind this strategy, the content strategy is a smaller strategy based off of your business or marketing strategy, right? That's why we did that episode last week. High level overview of what your marketing strategy will look like. And where the content is just a supplement, it's an addition or an extension to that. So last week we stated that you can't have a strategy without a goal. It's the same thing when it comes to content marketing. Why do you want to create content? Or what's your goal behind the creating of content? And how will you promote it through these channels? Okay. So keep that in mind. So what are the steps? Now, this is what I do. This is what works for me. Hopefully it can help you. I really just want to provide you with ideas that will get your memory going and you'll figure out what works for you. Okay. So one thing that I do is I create a list of topics. I create a list of topics that are already aligned with my core message. I know what my core message is. It's pretty much marketing and networking. And then so many things fall under that. Branding, personal brand, right now, online products. Some people ask me about graphic design because I get a lot of compliments. Now, I'm not a designer, but I think I can at least highlight some of those things when it comes to visual branding. So marketing, networking, that's the core message. So what are the topics? Marketing strategy, content marketing strategy, pricing strategy, how to create and maintain a personal brand. That should be coming up, I believe, next month. How to write, publish, and promote a book. That's been requested of me. So those are some of the topics that I'm playing around with. The second thing you want to do is create a workflow, create a system. Now, this is really, really important. You want to figure out what is the best way you work. Are you doing this all your own, or do you have 1 or 2, 3 additional people that are going to help you? This is important whether you have a video editor, audio editor, content editor. You have to create some type of workflow that you're able to turn this out on a regular basis. So for example, lately I've been recording on Wednesdays, and then I immediately upload the audio to Dropbox. I inform my audio editor, he retrieves it, and the goal is for me to have it by Sunday night, latest Monday morning, so I can upload it and have a new podcast episode go out to iTunes. So you want to see what cycles, what systems you need to create, especially if you're involving someone else. Or just a simple fact, how long will it take you to sit down, record a video? How long will it take you to edit the video? And all of that's based on your skill set. One thing that is popular among podcasters, just a lot of people in general, whether it's blogs, podcasting, or video, a lot of people talk about batching their workload. They know on Saturdays, all they're going to do is shoot video. On Tuesdays, all they're going to do is record their podcast episodes. You have to just be considerate of these things. You don't have anything else dedicated. You also have to be mindful if you're bringing other people in to be a guest on your show, on your platform. So create a system, create a workflow. The third thing you want to do is create a content calendar. So they have it broken down by each week, maybe the topic, the format, when will it be released. Your content calendar and your system may overlap, but I suggest it's separate. And then, of course, when will it be published and promoted through the different channels? And then maybe have a results or a highlights box. That way you can write that stuff in a week or two afterwards. In the show notes, I'll have a few links to what a content calendar may look like. I'm trying to grab about 1 or 2 of them, 2 examples for you. And then you also want to see if you can include either in the calendar or the workflow is when and how do you plan on repurposing the content? So if you write a blog post, do you plan on doing anything else with that? And the last thing I put is a content audit. And this is something that I'm working on right now. I initially heard of this through Smart Passive Income with Pat Flynn. He interviewed a gentleman that's talking about a content audit. It's pretty much just doing a sweep. Maybe you had some very old posts, 2-3 years old, when you just started. You're a much better writer now that you kind of remove. Maybe they didn't, you had a new blog, so it didn't get the attention, the traffic that it needed. Or, hey, look how fast social media is changing. Maybe you can go back and update that post and bring it to the top. Also in the audit, you want to check for broken links, page errors, and you may want to do your content audit on a quarterly, semi-annually, or an annual basis. So for me, one thing I realized is because I've changed my website several times within the past 12 to 15 months, the audio files are not playing for some of the web pages on my website. So that means I need to go back to my host, Libsyn, get that link and embed it back to my website. And I know it's a time suck, but that's the benefit of doing a content audit, because you never know what someone may Google search, they come across your page, your information, and they're highly interested only for them to click play and nothing comes out. So telling on myself, I'm working that out, hold me accountable. Wow. So we're already at the 35-minute mark. Yeah, that's why I really wanted to do content and social media together, but I just know it's a lot of information. So we're going to save the social media for next week. But I'm hoping this helps as far as all of the options you have when it comes to creating content. It's not just a blog post or a podcast, but if you are a graphic designer, obviously designing, doodling is a strength for you. Maybe you can do some illustrations, and I'll put some examples in the show notes. Other thing that you want to consider, these are 2 resources I use. I have a WordPress blog, by the way. So I use an SEO Yoast plugin, SEO Yoast or Yoast SEO. That's a plugin to help with my SEO, which is search engine optimization. I try to fill that out as much as possible with all the details. And it has a way to measure it. Like, I think if it's red, it's bad, and then orange, it's improved, and then green, it means it's good. You filled it out completely correctly. So that's a good plugin when it comes to search engine optimization. And then a second resource I use with certain blogs is CoSchedule, their headline analyzer. So if you have a tough time trying to figure out what's going to be the title of my blog, what that does, it will grade your title for you. You'll just type it in. It'll give you a literal grade. 60 is an F. And but it'll give you the reason why. And it does little things to talk about, like an emotional connection or lack of an emotional connection. It's too wordy. It gives you some good details on what's wrong with your title. And you kind of just got to keep playing around with it to see if it gets better and hopefully not worse. But I will have those in the show notes. So with your content, as a wrap up, think about your communication to your audience. Your audience can be anyone. You're my audience, right? But I may have a separate audience when it comes to my customers that I want to specifically buy marketing services from me. I may do something totally different for them. I'm actually working on some pitch decks because I did some cold calls today and I have 2 appointments in a couple of weeks, right? So I'm going to give them a different presentation, but that's content. So think about what is the best way that you are able to communicate to your audience. So make sure you go to michellegourmet.com for the full show notes. All of this will be there. And while you're there, I actually got a new web layout. It's one thing I was reminded of when I was at the Presentation Power with Jonathan Sprinkles. He flipped through everyone that had a website, and then people had to raise their hands if there was an emotional connection to the website. And no one raised their hand, or at least I didn't see anyone raise their hand. So, I was feeling some type of way because I think I had a nice website. But speed is key. Speed is key. And after the event, I spent about the next 48 to 72 hours updating my website, and the feedback has been positive. The emotional appeal has been there. So I'm very grateful. So while you're there, check it out. Let me know what you think. As always, you can reach out to me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at michellegourmet.com. Remember, a personal connection leads to an influential network. Thanks for networking with Michelle.